Hello and welcome to part 4 of the Bungalow tutorial series. This is David Ward. When last I left you, we brought our walls up and added in our doorways and our window openings. So now what I want to do, and we also deleted the connecting mesh between the outer and inner walls. So now we can UV map it a little easier with it being disconnected. So that was the reasoning behind that. Once we start working on the textures and everything, it'll be a lot easier to do it this way than if we actually had it all connected. So, excuse me, that being said, let's go ahead and start putting our trim in over our doors and windows. And it can be as fancy as you like. I'm not going to make it too fancy, maybe a little fancy. But we'll just start over here, Shift A, and we're going to add in a cube. And go into our top view. And I'm just going to bring it over here to the side. We'll just not bother with the house itself just yet. This is going to be a separate piece. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to Control R, and I'm going to add a couple of lines in like so, just so we have 4 vertices like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this face. So it's the same reason behind why I did the walls. That way we don't have to worry about texture mapping that, because it's going to be inside the wall essentially. So let's select that and maybe make it a little smaller. And we could probably go ahead and do the same thing with the top and bottom as well. So just the faces. So the only thing you're going to see, just imagine this is the trim around the edge of your door. Like if this was long enough, this is where the little latch for the doorknob would go, right in here. And this is the wood trim. So we can grab the sides there and just drag it straight up. It's going to be, 6 feet 8 inches tall, so let's kind of start accommodating for that. I'll just put it down the ground plane there all the way, and just grab the top of it, and see, that's 6 feet, and then we can zoom in. If you hold on Control, when you're zoomed in this far, it'll go up incrementally. Incrementally, is that right? Yes. Every inch, so you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6 feet 8 inches. So that's the right height, but obviously it's way too wide. So let's just scale it down, and it looks like, just eyeballing it, it looks like it's about 3 inches wide. So let's zoom in here, scale it on the x-axis a little smaller, about right there should be fine. And then let's go ahead and get rid of these edges, these faces as well. So we just basically have kind of a C shape from the top. So it's just going to wrap around the wall opening. So we're not going to see this side of it, and it's going to mask off the blank space between the walls. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get to it. So this only needs to be, right now it's a foot wide basically, but it only needs to be like 7 inches, so it'd be the 6 inches of the width of the wall plus the ½ inch on the outside. So we'll go 7 inches. So say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just a little bit smaller, all right there. Okay, so that'll be, if we go into a solid view, you can see this will be the facing around the door. Now this side doesn't really need to be that thick, but I'll just leave it like that, just so there's no guesswork if it's actually going to be hidden or not through the wall. So let's go to our front view. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to, like I said, add a little bit of fanciness to this. Let's tab in edit mode. Let's move it over to its center, about right there. And I'm going to add in. Let's select these 2 edges, these 2 faces. These 2 edges here and there, and I'm going to W subdivide, and I want 1 line there, and then maybe another line right by it, and then just to put some fancy molding into it, I'm going to go ahead and give it a few cuts here. Don't want to give it too many because you don't want to get too high resolution. It kind of depends on what your plans are at the end point. If you want to use this as a game interior, you don't want too many polygons in here, so be careful with your fanciness. So I'm just gonna kind of play with this a little bit, make this a little fancy with some fanciness. So you can see now it'll have something like that. And one thing I've learned in doing architectural visualization things such as this, it really helps keep the shading flat. If you wanted to smooth it, it kind of makes it look a little ugly. So I'm going to leave it flat. And then if we want something a little smoother, like for example this area here, I'd like that to be a little more curved. We just have to add more what's the word I'm looking for? Subdivisions to it. We have to subdivide it a couple more times. So I'm just clicking and dragging across those so I get them all selected. I don't need those ones selected there, so deselect those. So we'll come in here and subdivide those each one time should be fine. So now we go to vertex select and we can grab those and round that out just a little bit more. About like so. Okay, then maybe tell you what, let's grab these guys. Oops, just these edges. Scale those out so they're a little more flat. Okay, so you have a nice little wave to it. Like so. So it looks pretty fancy, huh? Pretty fancy. So now an easy way to get this, this is just one side, so we definitely want the top and then the other side. So the other side's easy. We just got to duplicate this and then just flip it around. But before we do that, let's put an angle on here, a nice 45-degree angle, so it looks like it's been cut with a miter saw. So I'm going to select these guys, and I'm going to rotate 45 degrees negative. So there we go. The problem with doing it this way is it rotates them, and it doesn't keep the width. It just rotates them and makes them skinnier. So we have to scale it along the x-axis again until they're even 3 inches. See, that's where the grid comes in handy. So about right there. But in doing that, we lose our 45 degrees. So now, since it's already angled, we can just scale it on the z-axis until it gets where we need it. So if we drag it up across the edges, the corners of these squares, we can get a perfect 45-degree angle. So about right there. It looks good. Okay. So now I'm just going to select this one, Shift D, duplicate it. Then I'm going to SX -1, so it flips it. But this makes it inside out, so I've got to flip the normals, Control N, inside. There we go. Actually, I guess I need to Control N, not the inside, just leave it outside. So there we go. Now we have the 2 edges of the walls. So now, easy enough to do this. Just put a divider in to one. Actually, tell you what, don't do that yet. But what I want to do is just Shift D, duplicate this over here. Now I want to put a divider, Control R, right there in the middle, SZ0, so it's nice flat, and then go ahead and get rid of this. I guess I didn't really need to do that. Already done in any case. So now I have this little bit shorter segment here. This will be for over the top, and I'm just going to select this, Shift D, and then drag it down, SZ-1, and then we'll have to do the Control N to flip the normals. And then we can move that back up and just select those SZ0 so they're perfectly lined up with each other. And then we can go W, remove doubles. And it removes all those doubles, and it's all one piece now, as you can see. So now if you wanted to, you could just select that whole edge there and go X edge loops, and it'll just make it one piece. So now we have our top header there. So now we rotate that 90 degrees, bring it up in here, plop it into place there next to that one. Boom, like a glove. And then we can select this guy, Control L, just select one vertex, Control L, you select what's the linked vertices, just drag that up into place, and boom. So now we have our fancy molded doorway. All right. So it's probably not the right width, or yeah, I guess it's probably the right height, but it's not the right width. But we can fix that once we get it into place. So we'll just drag this over here. This will be our front door opening. Let's come into here, drag it down to where it's kind of equally on either side of the wall. So good to go. Go to our front view and make sure that, okay, it needs to be, oh, of course, it's on the ground plane. It's not on the foundation. So just drag that up to there. And looks like good to go. All right, so now we have our door frame. Yay! So it's a lot easier now that we've got that one done. We can just duplicate it. Example for the windows, we'll just drag it over here, tab into edit mode, and kind of do the same thing we did with the top. Just going to drag the edges of the walls up, or the sides, and then we can select one of the vertices. Actually, let's get the face select, so we can select that. Control L, and then Shift D, and rotate it 180 degrees, and this will be the bottom of the window. Actually, tell you what, let's just delete that new one, and we'll just select the whole thing here. Shift D, rotate 180. There we go. Drag this down, and we can do like we did on the top when we connected the two pieces together. Just line it up there. Select the vertices there, SZ0 to flatten them out 100%. W, remove doubles. Remove 0 vertices. They must not be lined up just right. Okay, they're not. So let's grab this bottom, Control L, make sure we have everything selected. Zoom in real close here. And we'll just drag it on the X-axis. Hold down Shift till we get it lined up just right. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. That looks about right. Okay, so now we can select all that. W, remove doubles. And you can see now it removed 44 vertices. All right, so now what we can do is just go back to edge select mode, and those two edges are already selected, so we can just go X edge loops. I know those are all just one piece. Okay, so now we can move this guy into position for the window, right about there. Let's go to our top view. Move him down in here. Good to go? Good to go. All right, so that's looking real nice and pretty, huh? Nice and pretty. Pretty house we got here going on. All right, so we got our windows there. Shift D. And tell you what, I can see the origin of our windows are way over there. So one thing we can do to fix that is go to Object, Transform, Origin to... You can go Origin to Geometry. That works, puts it right in the middle. Or one thing that also works, we'll do this one, Origin to Center of Mass. Basically the same thing. So let's do that on all of these so that origin is right there in the middle. Transform. Origin to geometry. Okay. So this will work on all the normal windows. Let's go to our front view. Zoom in on that. Make sure it's lined up. Looks like it's just outside the boundaries of that window. So there we go. All right. Now it's not going to work on the bathroom and kitchen windows because those are obviously a little bit different size. But we can easily edit it because, you know, it doesn't have any vertices or edges across the middles, so all we have to do is move the tops and bottoms down or the sides out. A lot easier to manage that way than having something that's got a lot of hubbub to it. All right, so Shift D, duplicate this. Actually, you know what we can do? One thing I've learned recently, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one too. One thing we can do, since we have our base door frames and window frames all set, we want all of the other ones, except for the special ones like the kitchen and the bathroom, to be the same. So if we add a material to it, we want it to add it to all of them. And we could do that individually and go through one at a time and select each one, add the material, select the other one, add the material, so on and so forth. But there's an easier way. We can do it one at a time. Now, we can create an instance of these. Rather than a duplicate, Shift D creates a duplicate and makes a whole nother object, another whole object, separate from the source. It's not connected to it at all other than the fact that it's a copy. But what we can do is instead of Shift D, we can go Alt D. That makes a linked duplicate, which is like an instance. If you've used 3D Studio Max, that's what they're called in there. It's an instance. It's a copy, but it's more of a projection of a copy, rather. It's not new mesh data. It's just it's an instanced version of the original data of the mesh. So now, if I move this into place here, you can see they're connected in the fact that you don't have to edit the original. You can edit the new one if you like. So say I wanted to, just for example, grab this corner and I wanted to move it way out. You see it does it to both of them. It wouldn't do that on a duplicate. It'd only do it on this instance. Of course, I don't want that there, so I'll just move it out. And we can also use this for the bathroom window and the kitchen window, as long as we don't edit it in edit mode. Now, if I was to scale this here in object mode, you can see I can make it whatever size I want, and it doesn't affect the parent. But if I do it in edit mode, it will. So that's what we'll do for the bathroom and kitchen. We'll use the exact same method, Alt+D, but we won't edit it in edit mode. Rotate it 90 degrees. Looks like this bedroom window is a little more narrow. So let's do the same thing, SY this time. Just make sure we're in object mode this time instead of edit mode. And looks like it might not be lined up vertically. So just drag that down about like so. And let's make sure this window is also fixed because that's the one we're coming off of. So yeah, that needs to drag down some. Okay. So there we go. And then, you know, once we get these all in place too, once we add the panes of glass and, you know, any blinds or shutters or anything we want to do, we add them to the one piece. So, like for an example, we just come out here, Shift A, add a new plane out here. Where did it put it? Way over where the 3D cursor is. Let's delete that. And let's put our 3D cursor where we're at. Select those, Shift S, cursor to selected. There we go. So Shift A, plane, adds a plane. Rotate that 90 degrees on, I guess in this case it would be the y-axis. So drag that out. And say this is a shutter. Boom. It adds it to every window. So that saves a lot of time on these types of things. So delete these vertices. So anyways, a nice valuable piece of information to have while doing things that require a lot of copying and then a lot of editing of those copies. All right, so top view, let's go ahead and shift, or excuse me, not Shift D, Alt D down on the y-axis here. Let's go to our wireframe view so we can see a little better. Drag that into place there, then go to our side view, Control 3. Make sure that's lined up okay. Looks to be, yeah, right there. All right, and let's do the bathroom window. Alt D, Y, and it's going to be right here. Looks like it might be even smaller than the bedroom windows. Yep. So scale it. Oops. Scale it on the y-axis just a bit. Drag it down. And then we want to scale it on the z-axis some as well. Drag that up a little bit. Actually, that looks about right. Yeah. Okay, moving along. Looks like the front windows are a little bigger than all the other windows, so that's not a big deal. We can just copy from here. So Alt-D, move that around, rotate it 90 degrees, get it into place. The one thing you might be wondering is if you do this Alt-D thing and you decide you would rather it be an actual duplicate rather than an instance, you can do one of two things. You can go ahead and Shift D and duplicate it and then delete the old one like so and then put this back in this place and then edit. It's all by itself. But you don't have to do that. If you got it set up exactly where you want it, you can go Object, let's see, what was it? Make single user object. Boom. Oops, got another option that pops up. Make single user object, selected object. So now when I tab it up, you know what? It's been a while since I did this. Let me pause and figure that exact thing out, and I'll be right back. Okay, I was almost correct. I picked the wrong thing. So it's object, make single user. Instead of object, it's object and data because you're using the data of the instanced object. So you go object and data, selected objects. So you tab in now, you can see it's all by itself. So right now I want to keep it as an instance. So there we go. Wow, 19 minutes. This one's dragging on a lot faster than I expected. So let's hurry this up. Shift D, oops, Alt D, undo that. Make sure, there we go. Alt D down here, get that into place there. Alt D again, into place. And let's grab that bathroom one. Alt D, put it over here by the window, or the the kitchen. Move that into place. Might have to modify it just a bit. grab one of those other ones, Alt+D, rotate 90 degrees, put it right in here, boom, and Alt+D down here. Okay, so let's make sure that's looking good. Looks like, still has one of those planes selected. I guess I undid too far. Which one we got here? This one? Which one do we have selected? There we go. Alright, so there we go. Now, the kitchen window. Looks like, yes, it's a little too narrow, so we'll scale it on the x-axis a little bit. Okay, and then these are good to go, like so. Like so. Okay. Well, running out of time here. I'm trying to keep these a little shorter than usual. So we're sitting at 20 minutes now. I'd like to keep them a little closer to 15. But, all right, that's going to be it for part 4. In part 5, we'll go ahead and do the same thing with all the doorways. So we'll just duplicate this doorway mesh. And then maybe we'll start adding some more things to the doors, like actual doors in the doorways instead of just door openings. So that's going to be it for part 4. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 5.